Okay, go ahead.
What?
Start your rant.
No, I'm not going to rant. It's not very unprofessional, Mark.
Welcome, everyone, to Digital Grocer, Season 5, Episode 1. It is great to be here. I'm your host, Sylvain Perrier. I'm working from home today. I think it's Friday today. And joining me is, from his basement again, Mark Ferris. Mark, how are you?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. It was good to be out and aired somewhat, but now I'm in the confines of my comfort place.
Sometimes I feel like an old rug. You got to be aired once in a while,
That's
put
right.
outside for a good wash. But listen, we had an amazing trip recently that we got back from. We went to Chicago. We drove over Minneapolis and we came back, and then we met up with David Bishop from Thrift Meets Click.
Correct.
And we had, which was really cool. David took us around Chicago to visit some stores. Particularly actually two of the stores that I really wanted us to visit was the Amazon stores.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was an eye opener because we don't have those stores in Canada.
Right.
So it was the first time I went into one.
Yeah, and what was kind of interesting of these stores. It is very clear that Amazon is using these stores not only to sell groceries, but really to fundamentally test some of the new technology they're working on. You know, one of the locations had the smart card. The other location didn't have the smart card. You could self-scan to come in, and even how they merchandise and how they store their alcohol is different from what we experience here. And so this episode is really fundamentally about, walking through these two experiences, David commenting on some of the findings. And I'm excited to share this with our listeners because it kind of gives a preview of what it's like from when a researcher walks in and looks at a store different from the eyes of a retailer that may be responsible for operations, marketing, and merchandising. And certainly from our context between we're looking at it from customer experience perspective, technology perspective. So the video is very interesting.
And we'll do the same thing. It's now $14.29 for a total of $16. If we were at home and we did this, what would we pay? And we have a range of results. The free one for Prime is saying that we can get that for $11 free delivery on Saturday. So here's an example where it actually pays to shop online because we would save $3.50. Yeah. So really interesting kind of pricing dynamic there.
As I said, it was the first time I'd been in an Amazon Fresh store. But this store had basically the dash cart, which we've all seen pictures of, with the cameras and the weighted element or the weight scale in it. So David and I grabbed the cart, linked it to his Amazon Prime account, and we just started going up and down the aisles, putting merchandise in the cart. And in some instances, you'll see some shenanigans in the sense that we tried to fool the cart. I have to admit, it's really clever, and we tried all sorts of angles to try and hide the product going in, or at least the UPC barcode. So it's got to be picking up something other than just the barcode. It's the size of the packaging itself.
Yeah. And this was what was interesting of this cart is we actually found out at some point during our trip that Amazon is actually going to be discontinuing the use of these cards. And I find that interesting, that the fact that we know that Instacart has made a massive investment, $350 million into paper. These cards are being used at Sobeys, being used at Kroger. And Mercatus' Roots is actually designing these types of cards. So not surprised that Amazon's made the strategic decision to kind of discontinue those cards.
Although strangely, it doesn't work 100% of the time. As we know, some items made it, some of those bottles made it into our cart without being picked up by the actual system.
Yeah.
So there is some shrink or loss associated with that issue. In this case, that could be a significant amount. I think when you look at some of the pricing in the store, we looked at things like batteries and we found some interesting things. There's not really a clear pattern, but in the case of their private label Amazon Basics, we could find a 20 pack of AAAs where we would save $4.50 buying it in the store versus online and waiting until Saturday to get it, even with free Prime delivery. But the national brand actually is more expensive in the store than online. Yeah. So there's really not a real rhyme or reason there. Part of it you would think would be to reinforce the value of shopping online or in store. And in some cases, I guess with the first party or the private label, they may be taking that price action as a way to reduce their shipping costs by motivating and rewarding those people who buy it in the store as opposed to requiring them to ship. So I think there's a few things there. There were a few more people shopping with the carts, but as we learned from this store, which is the oldest in the Chicago market, that they just kind of finished up a promotional wave where they were encouraging people to use the carts, and we clearly saw that in the store. It was probably twice as much usage as we would typically see in other stores. So clearly that's having some effect. The question is, how sticky that is something we'll find out over time.
Yeah, some of what the takeaway that I had was very few, and you hit on this before, very few shoppers, a lot of people, a lot of pickers going up and down the aisles.
Very friendly, very friendly.
Absolutely. Modest amount of pickup orders and staging.
And as I said, unless you're disappointed because you can't find your preferred brand or your favorite item, most people would look at the assortment and say it's well assorted, even though these stores generally carry under 13,000 SKUs, which is considerably lower than the conventional grocers in this market that would have somewhere closer to 30,000.
Yeah.
So they do a good job with their private label products across the departments. Those regional favorites like the Duke mayonnaise we highlighted again really is a unique offering in the Chicagoland market. And you get a general sense that you can get everything you want there, assuming that your favorites that you expect to find in the store are there.
And their baked goods, their prep section, not busy at all. But again, it's about 4:30, 4 p.m.
Right, but as you saw at the meat counter, if we wanted a special cut of meat, we couldn't do that because, again, like a Walmart, Amazon Fresh stores currently don't have a saw in the meat department to do any custom cuts. So that's a point of differentiation that conventional grocers need to remember, because after all, that's something that they offer that you can only get from them, because Amazon Fresh has elected or decided that that's not important for their business.
Yeah. And from my eyes, a modest produce section.
Yeah, it's nothing spectacular, but again, if you look at the competition, if you say who are they looking at, in some ways you can compare it to what Target has done. That's a very modest produce section, maybe not as expansive as Walmart, but again, they're not really going head to head with either one of them, and that's clear when you look at their pricing. They're in fact going more after the conventional grocers customers. In this market, that would be a Mariano's or a Jewel or
The next store we went to, a brand new version of Amazon Fresh. Sylvan, you were fortunate enough to join us this time. What did you notice as soon as we went in the door?
This store it's a smaller footprint, but expansive in terms of the way they merchandise. Typically walk into a standard vestibule and you grab your cart, you go. This is not the case here. Now, we were greeted right away. David took his phone, loaded up his Prime account, scanned it, and then we were allowed in. No smart cart at this point. And so this is where we found out that this is being discontinued, and then we went into the store. We were each given for that trip a $10 coupon that we could use immediately. Mm-hmm. So some heavy discounting that's happening at this specific location. The one thing that was very interesting is the quality of their food prep station.
here's going to be the shame. You're going to see a really nice food buffet that is taken from Whole Foods and very little cross-shop on it.
And the pricing is extremely reasonable. So that was amazing. The staff weren't terribly busy, and they were extremely friendly, very well trained. I mean, I'm sure that probably changes in the case where you're dealing in a location where you have a lot of foot traffic. And then I don't know if this is because of the liquor laws in Illinois or just the way Amazon had chosen to do it. They have a person dedicated to the alcohol area, so which is, it's limited only to wine. So you have to present your ID to get in, and then you go in. It's very well merchandised and so on. So we're able to kind of buy some wine and so on and try some different things.
Well, they weren't doing that before, so
Yeah.
Still misnomer, Mark.
Yeah.
It was a self-contained environment in there. It was a little smaller. It was cold in the store. We did have to show the ID to go in, although we didn't have to show an ID when we walked out of the store. So maybe the reason they do that is to facilitate a quicker egress from the store, which is fine.
We tried to cheat the camera system. So if you take an item off the shelf and then you return it to an other area in the store to see if it would discount it. So David will talk about that in the video.
Well, putting a product back on the shelf.
Well, yeah, and we're going to find out. We have to wait. They said it's going to be between 45 minutes and an hour to get our receipts. So we'll find out. But we did intentionally take something off the shelf, put it in our cart, and then lazily put it back somewhere else randomly in the store. What we learned was that if we were to do that the system would charge us, which is kind of crazy. In fact, the lady we were talking to did talk about how she did encounter some customers who came back in the store to complain about being charged for something they put back.
This was my first experience as actually seeing fresh, so produce and vegetables sold by the each inside of the store. Mark, have you ever seen that?
No. It was a novelty for us, for sure.
So interestingly, a couple things along the line. The produce now is all fixed weight priced, or not fixed weight. They're all fixed price. So instead of buying an apple on a price per pound basis, you're paying a fixed price based on a standardized weight, which has some variability. So that's going to take some time to get used to, because frankly, I'm not accustomed to buying apples by the each with that type of pricing. But the other thing we did see in the prepared food section was that they had made the shift to a price per container as opposed to a price per pound when you were kind of filling up your hot or cold bar with whatever accoutrements you wanted.
Yeah. And the supply, surprisingly, Amazon, the two stores we visited, and this specifically, we saw traditional gaps in the supply chain around paper products, but some of the other items like fresh and meat and dairy, we did not see any issues around the supply chain. And then we went through the checkout process, fairly painless in the sense that you don't have to go through a traditional counter. Very much, again, streamlined. You scan your QR code on your app on the way out, and you'll see that in the video. You leave, and then you have the bagging station at the end. Did you see anyone bagging as they were shopping? I suspect you could if you brought in your own bags, but you would go through certainly an audit process on the way out.
Which we learned is not foolproof. In the video,
it's not foolproof, and it also. And this is in a store that's not busy, and what was in the first store we visited, and I want to call this out for the people, and you'll see this. We ended up getting 2 additional bottles of wine, and on the second store on the way out, we saw someone forget a 12-pack of Diet Coke.
Yeah.
And I got to imagine they're auditing on the way out. They're talking to people, so it's shrink an issue.
Oh, it must be. At least in that instance, it was.
I think, yeah, absolutely. And could you imagine if when the store is really busy, how are they dealing with shrink?
Yep. So here you go, folks. Here's the clip.
Another interesting example of how shopping in a fresh store could be different from an experiential standpoint going forward.
Awesome. All right. Cool. Thanks, David.
We've got more great episodes on digitalgrocer.com, and we'd love to connect with you on social media at Digital Grocer on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and at digital_grocer on Twitter. Like, subscribe, and click that bell icon so you never miss another Digital Grocer podcast.
Shit, I didn't record that.
You did?
I didn't.
You want me to do it again?
Yeah.
It's my guy. You may as well put on I'm a tech guy. Flag it.